Hello. See this wall? It is a massive piling of large blocks stretching over 10 kilometers, hidden in a mountain range in the heart of Europe. Also hidden is the true age of the place, an old mystery that we will try to sort out today. At the same time, we are checking the worldwide phenomena of the clamps, or the globe-trotting ancient technique of securing stones with butterfly-shaped implants. Stick around. Saint Odile is a majestic place, sitting on top of an imposing mountain overlooking Strasbourg, between France and Germany, combining some glorious natural landscape with gourmet European heritage, as in the ancient monastery, now converted into a luxury hotel. Although my wife disagrees, the best part of the site is not the five-star accommodations, nor the restaurant, but the long trails going around it. The path follows a colossal stonework, a long wall built with large boulders, piled without mortar, in a style, at least at first sight, not unsimilar to those walls said to have been built by one-eyed giants in Mycenae, Greece, but critically too far away from the Mediterranean Bronze Age to make it properly Cyclopean. The wall in Saint Odile stretches over 10 kilometers, covering three different hilltops, but incomprehensibly it is not protecting any city, nor even any building, inside the precinct. The hills under siege are covered in vegetation, alone, and have always been free-ranging in the past. Note that we know Cyclopean walls, those mysterious ancient constructions made with cut-to-fit stones that are found all over the world, are not fit for defense. That's because building those types of walls with massive boulders, one odd-shaped stone at a time, just takes too long. Thus, Cyclopean is not an adequate building technique when facing an imminent risk, like an invasion. However, in the case of Saint Odile, the issue was not concerning the effort required to build the wall, since the stones are loosely piled up and not properly fitted. The trouble there is that there was nothing to defend inside it. So, where do we stand? Could the walls in Saint Odile be related to the one-eyed giants, or is it there a different story? The city of Strasbourg, down in the valley underneath Saint Odile, has long meant trouble for the European peoples, with all sorts of mad rulers claiming control over the city, right before wreaking havoc in the whole continent. Luckily, the wall is not related to any of those times European hotshots claimed the area, on their way to cause a world war. Well, except for the first time it might have happened, in the 7th century AD, when the Merovingian nobility, known as the Dukes of Alsace, decided to build a massive convent on top of the mountain. That imposing palace was later named Saint Odile, in memory of the duke's daughter that was blind and then could see, plus a bunch of other miracles, making the fame of the fanciful convent/luxury hotel. Beforehand, the site and the forests around it had been on the way of the Romans chasing the Gauls, leading people to wonder if the big wall could have been built back then in the late Iron Age. This Gallo-Roman hypothesis is a long shot, since the Celts were some brutes not into fine wall constructions And more pragmatically, if someone had built such a large complex structure back then, the Romans would not abandon it. As seen not far in the actual Gallo-Roman site of Labur, that sets the record straight for what to expect in such a place, with an abundance of Roman and Gallic objects, plus some sad murus gallicus, made with smallish stones plus mud and wood beams to keep the ensemble together. In short, from the Gauls to the Eurocrats, everyone seems to be in the area just for a short stay and not committed to build anything, including a big wall around nothing. Thus, until today, the true age of the site has remained a mystery, even admitted in official sources, never keen to reveal weaknesses. Saint Odile is the name of the convent, and the church, and the hotel, and I guess the restaurant too, but not on the wall. That one is called the Heidenmauer, or translated the Pagan Wall, a big word that evokes, contrary to Saint Odile, an older, even pre-Roman time, when Christianity was not in the menu. And there's more to that name. Heidenmauer is also used for several other ancient walls in the region, more on the German side around Frankfurt, but close enough. By sharing the name, it could imply the wall in Saint Odile was part of a larger cultural trend. But no, these other constructions share none of the grandeur of Saint Odile, being some rough and tumble misassemblies of small pebbles and plenty of mortar. Old they might be, but not very old, as that type of construction can't stand for millennia. Apparently, the name Heidenmauer only came up in the 12th century AD, in a time pagan was a word used to describe anything slightly older, likely from the Dark Middle Ages, between the collapse of the Roman Empire and the establishment of the European kingdoms. The Heidenmauer in Saint Odile is, at first sight, not unlike the Lion Gate in Mycenae, often considered the prime work of the One-Eyed Giants, but that is all a fairy tale. Down there in Greece, the really Cyclopean stuff is older than the Lion Gate, and hidden behind the big boulders, in the form of odd-shaped blocks, cut to fit one to another. That is because being Cyclopean is much more than mythical creatures stuck in blue-collar jobs. It includes kind of an ancient secret that only the smart folks who have been around this channel know of. So, subscribe, be like a king in the land of the blind. Moving on with the idea, the Cyclopean builders were a lost ancient culture, or better said, a family of cultures, easily recognizable for fancying a particular style of piling odd-shaped stones, who, during the Bronze Age, lived in southern Europe, close, although not close enough, to Saint Odile. This distance could be either about 500 kilometers south, overlooking the Mediterranean coast, in the Castellaras, that are some rough piled stones likely Cyclopean, but not sophisticated enough for it to be a certainty. Or slightly closer, 300 kilometers or so, but on the wrong side of the Alps, in the Diavolo Wall, another simple structure that could or not be Cyclopean, in the sense of built by one of those lost cultures. Generally, these cases of one culture or structure being or not Cyclopean are determined by other factors beyond the construction technique, like the burial practices or the usage of the constructions. But in the case of Saint Odile, the key to say they are not part of that family is hidden in between the big blocks. The most striking characteristics of the wall in Saint Odile are the clamps securing the stones together. Those are one implementation of a particular construction technique that is to be found in many mysterious ancient sites all around the world, leading many to speculate the butterfly-shaped thingies grappling the stones together are the hallmarks of an ancient interconnected civilization. Likewise, polygonal masonry is. In fact, clamps tend to show up in unrelated locations, as if carried by ancient globetrotters. There is Tiwanaku in Bolivia, with its incredible precise stone cuts of the H blocks and large floor slabs clamped together. It is a marvelous sight, but I do not think they are related to any type of Cyclopean works, not even the ones in Peru. The Tiwanaku H blocks are not structural, they are not cut to fit one to the other. They are, although very fancy, just a decorative aspect like the top of a column in a Roman temple. There is also the case of Giza in Egypt, with the pyramids and whatnot. No proper ancient mystery is complete without the pyramid builders playing a role in it. And funny enough, the Pyramidians did use some metal clamps to hold the base stones in place. Then you name it, there are clamps nearly everywhere, as in Cambodia, lost in the jungle, or on those temples that seem out of an Indiana Jones movie, showcasing more than their fair share of clamped stones. And obviously Saint Odile has the stones gripped together with plenty of clamps, although these are made with wood and not metal, a critical difference that will explain a lot as we'll be moving on. Granted, clamps are firmly established as the coincidental building technique that travels the world and is featured in the most unexpected of places. But, and this is just me saying it, I do not think the worldwide clamps are linked to one another, because we know too well what clamping was used for. Any random person, even today, can understand the idea of pouring some metal to keep two stones from drifting, and it seems both a practical and a cheap solution. Thus, if we can so easily understand this rational and economical application, it is probably not so mysterious why unrelated cultures came up with their own version of the thing. Unlike polygonal walls, for that we have no idea why they were built, and sometimes not even how. Regardless of the clamps being or not mysterious on their own, one thing we can be certain is that clamps are not Cyclopean, or vice versa. Those are two mysteries that are not paired, and there is a tight reason for that. Confused yet? Sorry for that. Let me try and tighten the grip of the presentation. The clamps in Saint Odile are a dead giveaway, proving the walls were not made by a lost European Bronze Age Cyclopean culture, for two reasons. One is direct. Just recently, in 2016, someone noticed the clamps used in Saint Odile were made out of wood, and thus carbon-14 dusting could be applied, finally ending the decade-long speculation about the real age of the site. The other one is deductive. Clamps are incompatible with polygonal masonry, with one denying the other, since the objective of building with odd-shaped fitted stones is to avoid them sliding, thus dispensing with the clamps, and vice versa. It is probably counterintuitive that clamps and Cyclopean walls, being both ancient mysteries that appear in unexpected places all around the world, are just not related. They are even incompatible. But that is the crude physics of the effects. One dispenses the other. If one is building with polygonal walls, clamps are unnecessary, and almost vice versa, because clamps are kind of a second-rate solution to keep the stones from sliding off their place. Thus, since Saint Odile has clamps, they definitively prove the wall is unrelated to the Cyclopean Bronze Age works. Furthermore, the long-due carbon-14 testing also settled the score by showing the walls were built in the 7th century AD by the Merovingian dukes of Alsace, around the same time the once monastery, now hotel, was first built. Here's the thing. Saint Odile is not Cyclopean. It does not belong to the ancient culture of builders in Bronze Age Europe, because it has the clamps. One can argue if clamps were or not a technology shared around the world by some ancient traveling builders, or it was developed independently and applied as needed. But, regardless of that dilemma, there is no mystery left about who built the walls in Saint Odile. It was the family of the ex-blind Merovingian princes in the 7th century AD. There are no more doubts about that. Now, regarding the other mystery of why they had all that wall built around nothing, we still have no idea. And that is a clue we need to follow when next we go to Italy to check why so many Cyclopean walls have nothing inside them, and how that absence of evidence is evidence for something absent in the study of the past. That's it for today. Hope you liked it. See you in the comments.